you get to be even more angry. So, hi, Tammy.
Guess who forgot to hit record? And that was really good. So, oh,
Hi, Tammy. That's okay. I'm sure there'll
hi.
be other like
I
gems that
know.
will fall out of my mouth.
Okay.
Let's move on.
No, no, no. The two more things. First of all, is anger is a good cover for hurt, and you're hurt, you're betrayed. The other thing is what you do with the anger. Like I've had partners in particular who have said, I am just rageful, and they don't want to be that person. So
Right.
how you handle it, whether it's journaling, in community with other betrayed partners, like there's ways to handle the anger without just squelching it. And I want to say, you say this all the time, nothing you did or didn't do caused him to act out.
Or will
Nothing
do.
you do right now or will do that. So you going, oh, if he uses, oh, you're angry at me, so now I'm going to go act out, that's shifting the blame to you. It's got nothing to do with you. He's looking for an excuse. So that was the two other things I wanted to mention.
Well, I want to add to that really quickly because I think spouses do need to be responsible for their behavior. Because if you hit someone, if you're breaking dishes, if you're screaming in front of kids, then you're going to do things you don't feel good about. And you're the last person who needs your addict spouse to say, see, you're doing this too. So try to keep your side of the street clean. Nothing wrong with having any feeling, but how you choose to act on that feeling is what can become a problem for some people. Let's move on, Tam. We're going to get through all
Okay,
these questions.
so the next one, a red flag early in my relationship with my cis male SA is that he had no friendships with men. The few friendships he had tend to be with women he either effed or wants to. I get that he has scars from being bullied by his brothers and macho guys when he was younger, but many betrayed partners I've talked to also say that their addict partners don't have healthy male friendships. Is this socio-cultural for men over 40? Is there a correlation between SA and incapacity for friendships? That's an interesting question.
There's a lot of questions there, but let me just say one thing. Many men, and I think there's research on this, give up their male friendships when they get in marriage. Their partner, their wife becomes the person they're most dependent on, that they most turn to, especially if there's kids and they're just very focused on the home. Women tend to hold on to their female relationships, or maybe when you have a child, you get new ones. We're not as communal as women are. We're not as good as holding. We're more superficial. How was the game? What's going on? We tend to not go as deep. And so what we hold on to may not be as meaningful to us as it is to you. So it isn't pathological for men to not hold on to relationships once they're in a deep relationship with a woman. My belief is it's good for them to. I am grateful when I can get out of here and hang out with my guy friends to go do whatever, because number one, it gets me out of here. It's nice to get away from home. And two, it's important. I cannot put all my energy into one basket. And if I do, especially if we have the issues we do, you're going to disappoint me. You're going to let me down. You're going to, not be there, whatever. And I can't be sitting around saying, well, who am I going to turn to? Because that's when I get in trouble. So I think having a good, solid, now Tammy will say, don't let this be the bunch of friends that he hangs out at the strip club with, or that she goes golfing and they tell her how much it's okay to get late. I have to choose the friends that are going to support my healing process. And if you as my spouse saw me going out with the boys and going to the bar, that's not necessarily what I'm talking about. There was another question about culture, macho. Can you?
It says, is this socio-cultural for men over 40? Is there correlation between SA and incapacity for friendships? Those were the two questions at
Well,
the end.
yes. Every sex addict I've ever met, and I would say most of the addicts I've ever met, we really struggle with intimacy on every level. So, and when I say intimacy, please, everybody, I'm not talking about sex. If I wanted to say sex, I would say sex. If I wanted to say sexual intimacy, I would say that. I'm talking about emotional intimacy. We are really not good at expressing ourselves in that way. And so, hold on, I want to say something about that. Let me look at the question again. Um, there was something else in here that really upset me, and it
A few
was
friendships he has tend to be women because he's either
right.
effed or wants to. Yeah.
Well, on the one hand, I can understand that men often don't feel safe and it's easier to have female friends, but I'm a gay man. And I think if I was a married heterosexual man if I was a married heterosexual woman and I saw my cis husband hanging out with a bunch of women, I don't think I feel that comfortable with it. Couples, great, with other couples, whatever, but I, as a gay guy, I go hang out with my women's friends from 25 years ago. If I were a cis male, heterosexual, I would not do it unless my spouse was along, because I don't want to make them uncomfortable. And I got to tell you, a lot of the spouses that I talk to, and I do these consults, well, he said that they were an old friend, and he said they were friends since this and that, and he said he was just supporting. I think, again, if it makes you uncomfortable, don't make excuses for it. Say, this makes me feel uncomfortable, and then see how it comes back to you. Because that's if if you're being listened to. Is, why are you making a big deal out of this? It's just, then you're not being listened to. If it is, I want to know what upset you about it, because I can that's a whole different set of stories. But there's one more thing in this letter. He has scars from being bullied by his brothers and macho guys. So many of the men that I work with, and this happened on the consultation I did today, will say to their cheating spouse, well, but I have a lot of trauma and I'm not good with intimate relationships. And, I know I've slept with 40 people and gave you an STD, but, it's just because, and the thing is, yeah, we all have trauma, addicts in particular, but it is not an excuse. And when you were angry at me about stuff I've done, and I say, oh, well, but I have some of this trauma, so much trauma, it invites you to put aside your anger and your disappointment and feel bad for me. And if I have hurt you, it is not your job to feel bad at me, no matter what I say. And I have seen people use the trauma card as a manipulation to try to get the focus off of what they've done wrong and try to get the sympathy vote. So if there's something really problematic in this relationship related to sexual acting out, I would say take your trauma, go to your therapist, because I'm too angry at you and hurt by you to sit and listen to your pain. I'm sorry it happened, but I'm not the one to turn to right now. There, did
I
you want
just
to answer
want to, I do, in that when he does these expert consultations, that was a confabulation of lots of different things. It is like,
that? Sorry.
there's no notes on these. These are like, this is a consultation. This is not therapy. This is not treatment. So when he uses like any of these examples, it's some components of lots of different things.
Oh, I might. And you know what? Sometimes I do use examples from things you've said, but I change the name, I change the situation.
Yes.
When I write books, I have to write stories that are true, but I don't say the right name, or I change their job, or,
Yeah.
whatever that is. So you'll never hear us describe people in that way.
Yes. Okay, because I
Go
don't
ahead,
want
sorry.
anybody to think that, oh, I'm going to have an expert consultation, then it's going to be aired online. I want to be just really clear about that. And anyway, so we're going to go to number 29 now, the next one. And we answered the first one. So this is kind of a continuation from the last person. My essay wants his rewards for doing work to be my time, attention, sex. He doesn't want to enter a program without guarantees for me that I'll still be there for him on the other side. I know I need him to get well for him, not for me, or it can't work. How can one incentivize an addict in crisis without feeling like I'm being emotionally and sexually coerced and manipulated?
Well, I just want to say something at the last part. And I know we're both going to have things to say. I can't incentivize anyone to do anything. I can encourage them, like lead a horse to water. Perfect example. I can encourage them. I can tell them what we have on the line. But ultimately they're going to do whatever they want to do. And I think taking actions and basing my behavior on what someone else might do doesn't usually work for me. However, if you set boundaries for yourself, I'm not comfortable unless this goes on. I don't want to talk about that. Tammy says all the time, boundaries are for you, not for that other person. Now, you may kick them out and change the locks, and they may say, oh, I don't want to be kicked out, and go get some help. But the point is that you have to speak for yourself, speak from your heart, and don't feel like it's your responsibility to try to push them into treatment. Sometimes as you take care of yourself and really put energy to that, they may say, well, I don't like this relationship like this. And you can say, well, if you'd go get some help, it would be different. So now the first part, Tammy, do you want to start with that? Or?
I do, because one of the things I often say, if we have a treatment program for men, so I talk to men who are in need of help, and they're always going, I don't know if she'll or he will stay with me. And I was like, here's the deal. And nobody knows that, but I can pretty much guarantee that you stand zero chance if you don't get help, So there's no guarantees on any of this stuff, but man, to be in a different place. So this truly feels very manipulative of, like if you don't give me sex or whatever, I'm not going to do whatever. I like Dr. Rob said, I'd be like, I'm going to hold healthy boundaries for me. I'm going to value me. And so unless and until you're able to do some things, and it's not, again, being punitive to him, it's I value me because he's not, so I value me. So I'm going to hold this space. And if you're able to step into that, the couples that really do this work, and it's not all, it's not all easy, easy breezy, but to do this work, the ability to be in a different place, to have a real, true, vulnerable, intimate relationship, is so much better and deeper. Unfortunately, an addict in active addiction, is only thinking about what I have to give up. They're not understanding that their world is tiny because they're so focused on hanging on to stuff that is really, paper thin. The relationship with you is meaningful.
And I want to add to the guarantee word. I think this is backwards. If I were you, I would say, I can guarantee you that if you don't get some help, that I'm not sure I'm going to be around, and I'm certainly not going to make any promises. You're the one who has to guarantee that if they don't get help, it's none of their business what you're going to do. Like I said, it's not their job to influence you. It's their job to do what's right for them. So I would say that I would have a guarantee that if work doesn't go forward and I don't see trust beginning to evolve because you're working on this, I can guarantee you at least I'm going to distance myself. I'm not going to be available. Depending on where you are in this process. But there are no guarantees. I was talking to somebody 2 weeks ago who, they were just kind of playing with it. They were doing a little of this, a little of that, and they said to their spouse, "See, I'm working so hard, but nothing had really changed, and that ain't it." So he committed to going to treatment. He needs to go to treatment. He committed, yeah. So anyway, that's the guarantee thing. It's on your side.
Yes. Okay. The next one. All the therapists say addiction is not about sex. My SA husband says it's both escape and sex. This is very confusing for me. I've taken many educational groups from your therapist. I agree with escape is true. Why does he feel it is both? Is it a lack of understanding? He is in therapy and 12-step and this has been a 3-year journey.
Well, I might disagree with this. I think in part it is about sex. Just like drinking, it is about drinking. I want to escape and I'm dealing with my emotional problems and I'm burying it all and all that, but I'm still drinking. And so it isn't about the sex. What it's about, in a sense, is the idea of sex. That I'm going to pursue it, that I'm going to look for the ways I can get it, all of that is the process, not just the end point. But what is driving me forward is the idea of sex. What is driving me forward is preparing for the sex. The sex, interestingly, it takes the least amount of time in my process. I spend more time thinking about and planning and getting ready for, and than people actually do in the sex. So to me, what they're talking about is the whole process of escape that is really, and they use the sex like the carrot at the end that they're chasing. But we don't chase and do that and then say hi to a sex worker. We do what we're going to do. In fact, I will say that sometimes we end up with people we don't want to be with, or that we don't feel good about, or we're not attracted to. And we're so driven forward by that point that we will actually go through the sex we don't even enjoy or want to. So it's really about the whole buildup and the distraction so yes, sex is the carrot. Yeah, so Tammy, do you want to add to that?
No, yeah, any form of addiction is about filling the hole in our souls. It's not so behavioral is different than chemical. Now, often it's fused, but at the end of the day, I talk all the time about the clients that come to Seeking Integrity treatment program. We want to stop the problematic behavior, but address the underlying issues. Have a plan for when I feel triggered, when I feel lonely or hurt or abandoned or whatever it is, that I've got a plan so that I don't have to act out. So now you're going to skip to number 31. Skip 30.
Now, I want to say one thing about one more
please.
thing is, if I was trying to make you feel better, and I don't know if this is your partner at all, it could be for any partner or any question, I would probably say to you, "Oh, the sex meant nothing to me," or "I didn't want to," because I would want I would not want you to know that I was actually very much in pursuit of the sex. And one of the things I think we need to say, all addicts and alcoholics, I think, are the same way. If you tell an addict that was all terrible, that was awful, that ruined your life, and there, you don't get them, because there's always a little part that enjoyed it. There was always a little part that loved to be at the casino. There's always a little part that the first couple of drinks were really good. So I think it's actually good therapy to say, you're not crazy. It was something that was pleasurable to you. Of course, it ran off the rails, but I think it's important for every addict to acknowledge that there were times when it worked, because it isn't all terrible and awful. And, sometimes, at least for a while, it worked until it doesn't work anymore.
So now skip to number 31. Why are they intimate avoidant?
You want to start? I can think about it. I've written books about this, so this is a hard question, but what are your thoughts, Tam?
I know it's a short sentence or a short question, and it's like one of those,
Right.
I was like, I mean, there's so many things. I first thought came mother enmeshed men, where like it would be a betrayal of the mother enmeshed men if I was close with you. So it can be really complicated like that. It can be, I am so afraid that because you are meaningful and can hurt me so badly. So I want you close, but I'm going to push you away. And so there's always that compartmentalization. So, but we can learn in recovery to connect in real and meaningful ways, to be intimate, not just sexually, with another person. So that's my short answer for a short question.
Well, I'll give a short answer for a short question too. I avoid things that I'm afraid of. And I avoid things that make me feel bad, especially, or if they have in the past. So I think as sex addicts, it's very easy for us to move to intensity with someone we don't know well and have this mind-blowing whatever, because they're not going to hurt us. They're not going to let us down. They're not going to remind us of our history. We don't have any ties to them, and we don't have to really clean the dryer with them either. So it is much easier for us to separate sex from intimacy, emotional intimacy. But then we could never be emotionally intimate, because when you have secrets, you can't be emotionally intimate anyway, just to start. But yes, we absolutely avoid intimacy because it terrifies us on some level. We are split into pieces, and that's how we grew up. Sex, as Tammy said, can represent being involved with someone who traumatized me, or someone who overwhelmed me or used me, or things don't just come up because of what's going on in the present. Sometimes they remind us things of the past. I don't know all the stuff that happened to me, but I know enough about how I act out and what are my issues in a relationship to tell you that enough happened that I ended up like this. And we, by the way, someone asked about, he doesn't have a lot of friends. It isn't just his sexual intimacy. We avoid creating friendships. We avoid, and in some ways, not having the freedom to do whatever we want to do. So there's many pieces to this, but ultimately I avoid the things that I'm afraid will hurt me.
And you often say that the opposite of addiction is healthy attachment. And so that is also part of it. If I'm avoiding all attachments, it's easier to stay in my active addiction.
Well,
okay, go ahead.
Something else, the source of our life is home. HOME, the things that gives us strength, the things that help us go back out in the world, the thing that fills us up is our homes and the intimacy in our homes. And I often say about addicts that they're constantly running away from home. We want the intimacy, but when push comes to shove, we run the other way. So we have so many questions.
I know we do. I'm going to just tag on that because you did a podcast titled Home, and it is one of they're all pretty popular, but that is one of the more popular, is your podcast on sex, love, and addiction entitled Home. Okay, so the last question from last week. Thank you for your services. He said he would be here this week. I'm a 26-year-old porn and video game addict, and I've been trying to be in 12 steps, but I never feel like fitting in the process, even intended to. I try to work with sponsors, but there's always been a problem. I already even have a disclosure with my partner by my own taking the initiative and offering it, because I thought that the minimum my partner deserves after me being hurt is the honesty about my triggers for her self-safety. I'm joining SI meetings frequently, but I would like to know, is it possible to find integrity even without 12-step groups? I feel doubt about the 12-step process, and I seek reassurance for which side I should follow. I really want to do the right thing. It doesn't matter how. So that's a
Well,
lot.
that you got to start. Well, I was thinking maybe the 12-step part might be a really good part to address.
Well, one of the things, like I'd be really curious. So here's the common denominator. You said you've tried. I've been trying 12 steps. I don't know which ones you've tried, and there's a number of different ones. And there's resources listed on seekingintegrity.com. There's SA, SAA, SPAA, LAA, PA, PAA. Like there's bunches. So I'm kind of wondering how much you tried any of them, because if you go to one meeting, go, I don't like this and I don't fit in, the common denominator is you. And with all due respect, so hear me clearly, I want to help you. And so like, it's okay for us to be uncomfortable. We often say in 12-step, take what you need and leave the rest. And, talking about getting a sponsor, like they don't have to be perfect. And it isn't like a lifelong relationship. It is like, can this person help me, for the next month or two at least, to get through some of the steps? Are they further on the process than I am? Can they guide me? That's all. It doesn't have to be the most perfect person on the planet for you. Please, please, please don't do DIY disclosures. Yes, your partner deserves to know certain things, and and if there's been unprotected sex and they need an STD test, etc. Yes, but otherwise, I guarantee, will overshare or minimize. It won't go well. The most talked about topic in Dr. Rob's peer case consultation group with professionals who have been trained in this is disclosure. That means it's complex. Getting it right really makes a difference. Otherwise, your poor partner is just getting traumatized with you going, I want to be honest with you. And, but it's not with any kind of filter or support. So that's kind of my take on that. What are your thoughts?
Oh, there's so much. I'm going to start with the last sentence, or the second last. I seek reassurance for which side I should follow. These aren't sides. These are, if they're sides, they're all sides of a different, they're all different angles of the same thing. But why wouldn't you want more help? Like, especially 12-step, it's free. And one of the things that I really love about 12-step is you can go the rest of your life and no one's going to charge you a penny. And you can walk in that room 10 years from now and nobody knows you, and you raise your hand and say, I'm really in trouble, and someone will ask you out for coffee. Therapy groups end, support groups end. We won't be doing this forever, but 12-step goes on forever, and it's a free resource. So to me, and to me, when I was 26, and that's when I started, Tammy, 12-step, I didn't want to go. I didn't like it. I was around I wanted to go out and have fun. And you know what fun was for me, but I did hear something in those rooms that I thought, oh, this is different. And I feel like I belong here, and I'm getting a lot of good direction. So I'm going to stay. By the way, I didn't see which 12-step program, Tammy, was that in there?
Well, that's why I said there's so many different ones, and to
Right.
check out different ones would
So, but
be
this is a porn addict. So a
right. But
lot of
there's
porn addicts
PA,
do not,
PAA. Yeah.
yeah, they do not feel comfortable in sex addiction meetings, because sex addicts are out doing all this crazy sexual stuff. And if you're just a porn addict, you're sitting at home and you never leave your chair. So if you go to sex addicts meetings, you may just think, oh, I want to do what some of these guys are doing. So actually, porn addiction folks created their own meetings so they could be with other people who are isolated and ashamed, and also losing themselves in video games and all that kind of stuff. So the other thing, and Tammy kind of said this, is feelings are not facts. As addicts, we spend much too much time in our feelings. I feel like doing this. I feel like doing that. I'm feeling bad, so I'll do this. I'm feeling. I'm not sure it matters what you feel. What do they say, Tammy? Act your way into wellness. Is that?
Yeah. Act your way into good thinking, not think your way into good acting.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me if I have a problem and this is going to be helpful from what I hear. It doesn't matter what I think about it, as long as it isn't harmful. I don't think you're going to 12-step program this. You're going to say, this is how you need to lead your life, or let's go out with a chain gang, and you're going to hear things you like, you're going to hear things you don't like, you're going to support where you can. There's a lot of picking and choosing in those rooms about how you want to do this. But look, it's worked. It's been successful. I have been in 12-step programs for almost 30 years. So I would see them as integrative and things you can add together, not that you're picking one or the other. The last thing is that we are non-intimate. That's our problem. We've been talking about that. One of the things you get to develop in 12-step program is healthy intimacy, hopefully with people you're not attracted to. And that is really the essence of how we build more love into our lives in our romantic relationships. Because if I can learn all the skills needed and improve my skills to have friendships and sponsors and people in 12-step, then I'm going to have an even better skill set to be honest and work it out with my partner. So there's not much that I see problematic, and there's a whole lot of reasons to go. So
I agree. And I just put, because we've got a porn addiction 101, level 1 work group starting again. So that would be live facilitated. It is connection with other people in the group. I would be a good fit too. Okay. My husband is 6 months into recovery, and we're in a good place at this time. I'm finding
I'm
myself
sorry, Tammy, hold
confused.
on one second. Are you still reading
I'm on
stuff?
the open in the new, like in,
That's what
yeah,
I thought. Oh, okay,
yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Thank you. I thought
Okay.
we'd moved.
So yeah, we're in the open. These are today.
Got it.
My
Okay.
husband is 6 months into recovery, and we're in a good place at this time. I'm finding myself confused about what a healthy sexual relationship looks like for a married couple. I understand not doing things I'm uncomfortable with. I'm also understand emotional intimacy must be present before sexual intimacy takes place. However, I'm worried about causing my husband to stumble into in any way during his recovery. For example, I'd like to wear lingerie at times, but I'm not sure if this will be a trigger for him. Can you offer any insight into this?
I'm writing notes, but I have to say,
Mhm.
I don't see this. I'm not sure where it is. I see it's not in the
Oh,
answered.
here,
It's
let me put, no, it was in the open, but I'll put it in the answered. So now it's in the answered. So
thank
now do you
you.
see it?
I do.
Okay.
So thank you. So I just want to talk about one thing about maybe the last half, and you can, since you read the first half, um, there is nothing that you can do that will lead me to act out in my recovery. If you go buy lingerie, that might turn me on, that may make me think about, but what I do with that, do I slow it down with you and say, let's slow down, but I find myself thinking about other things? Because sometimes we go there because we're scared. And even though we're not aware of it, we just need to slow down because we kind of leave the room when we're with you and we start thinking about other things just to feel safe. Um, but that aside, there is there's so many questions here. Emotional intimacy, so
Hmm.
I'm just going to stick with the last part. You cannot make somebody stumble. You cannot. My decision to drink, my decision to use, my decision to go out of sex with other people, that's my decision. You can make me happy, you can make me miserable, you can be a great partner, you can have sex with me, not have sex with me, but the decision for me to go and act out, that is my decision. I could go for a walk, I could call a friend, I could divorce you, but the logical conclusion of our starting to have sex and my being excited about that is not, okay, that got me really turned on, so now I'm going to do it with 12 other people. That might be a logical conclusion, might be talking about it in therapy or talking about your sponsor, or but I think this assumption that I really have to challenge, that any spouse here feels responsible for someone else's acting out. I don't care what the addict says to you. Well, you've gained a little weight and it's not like it used to be, and you're spending all your time doing this. Great. Then we need a marriage counselor. We need to work on it, or we need to have some hobbies together. But if I hate you and I'm miserable with you and I hate our relationship, the logical conclusion is not having sex with other people. So I really want you guys to read Prodependence. I only make 15 cents a book, but I wrote this book called Prodependence because I truly believe that we stay out of love, that we stay to support them, that we would do anything to make them better. And when I hear spouses talking about taking responsibility for someone else's addiction, I know they're not talking about, they're talking about codependency. And I would say in a different way that the part you play is the loving, the caring, the being present, the being willing to tolerate this because you want to hold on to the relationship and you want to make it better. There's nothing wrong with anybody trying to hold on to a relationship because they love that person. Do you know how people get, and I know this doesn't make any sense, but there are clients I've worked with who are experiencing physical abuse. And you would think, well, why in the world would they go back to the person who's hit them? Because they love them. And life isn't black and white. People can hurt you, let you down, and you still love them, because that kind of connection doesn't just go away because someone did something. So you're not responsible, and no one who's a partner is ever responsible for our decision to act out. Okay, you get the first half.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah. So talk to him. Talk to him and say, I would love to wear some sexy lingerie. How do you feel about that? You know, and you can even say, I'm concerned because I don't want you to be triggered. And, but I 100% agree with Dr. Rob because you said, I don't want to cause my husband to stumble. It's, if he's stumbling, it's his completely his actions that would cause that, not you. And so I would invite you to have the conversation, because you said you're in a good place. So that must mean you're having good communication. You're connecting emotionally. I'm feeling closer to you. I would like to, explore, being more sexual with you. I would like to explore wearing lingerie. How do you feel about that? Would that be concerning to you? We've talked about this before, sensate focused touch, where it's not about you just having sex. It's having penetrative sex. It is about touch and connection. And can you wear your sexy lingerie and have no plans for, having
Right.
penetrative sex? You can watch whatever you want to do. I'm not going to do that on the webinar. It's going to be on YouTube.
Well,
So
I did want
you
to.
can do whatever you want in your lingerie. How's that? So
I actually do, and I look fabulous in lingerie, but not when
I
it
bet
has
you
lace.
do.
Lace is not my thing. That's a joke. Sorry. I want to comment the part about, I understand emotional intimacy must be present before sexual intimacy takes place. Sometimes emotional intimacy is built through the sexual experience in part. In other words, I'm feeling uncomfortable, I need to stop, either one of you, or I left the room, or I'm not present, or I started thinking about something else, or emotional intimacy during sex is I want to stop, I need a moment, or I'm feeling distracted, or that doesn't feel quite like I want it to. Being non-sexually emotional is just keeping your mouth shut, and having fantasies about someone else for the addict, or pretending it's okay for the partner. So there is an element of emotional intimacy in sexual intimacy, but and yes, you do need to be emotionally connected and present before there is sex. But sex is also, and what Tammy said, massages, back rubs, holding hands. There are many ways to connect physically and emotionally without necessarily having to have sex. So we should keep buzzing along, Tammy.
Yes. Okay, the next one of my most hated topics. Even though a polygraph is not 100% accurate, how do you go about believing your addict partner is disclosing everything without one? So a polygraph measures stress, not honesty. So I just heard another one about this person passed, and it's a longer story, but they shouldn't have, but they passed, and people were believing that. Anyway, so if you want to measure someone's stress, then get a polygraph. Most polygraphers are not trained to work with the mental health. The people that are actually doing a really good job, and you can listen to, I think it was Matt Wheeler or Debbie McRae did one, Family Strategies. They actually have a process, and it's very specific, and that's well done, and then fine with a polygraph. But the other thing is disclosing everything. That is not what a disclosure is disclosing everything, because that could, if the addict forgets one thing, which they can do, then it's not truthful, and then they would also maybe fail the polygraph. So with a polygraph, if you insist on doing it, there's no protocol, there's no research, there's nothing. So if
And
you
we're not
insist on it,
trained. Us
no,
CSATs are not trained in the
no,
use of.
no, when to do them, how to do them. There's a number of questions like, the polygraph organization reached out to me because apparently they heard I was not a fan, and they were trying to convince me, and the research they sent me only reinforced my research that there isn't protocol. Not everybody is part of the organization. Not every polygrapher is trained. If you get some police officer who's doing this as a side gig, They have no clue from a mental health standpoint, but
Mhm.
the polygraph organization deemed it unethical to ask certain questions like, is everything you say honest on this? Guess what? One of the questions that is frequently asked by betrayed partners, did you say, is everything here, is this everything, and is it all honest? Those are two questions that they don't even want you to ask. So I would challenge you to look at, is the actions of your addict showing you that this person is moving forward? Do you see that there are changes in that? That would be, so that I'm going to shut up because that's one of my, I could go on and on. I got a lot of
It's
research on
okay,
that.
Tammy, take a breath. I just wanted to say something at the last half of the question, which is, you will never believe that everything has been disclosed. I have never worked with a partner yet who said, "Oh, now I know everything. Thank goodness." You're
Mhm.
always going to worry. This is sort of like going through every magazine, going through everything, trying to get every single thing, detective work. I understand completely. You're trying to find out, what is the bottom line? When am I safe? What do I not know? Can I stay? I get all of this. But if you think that there's some guarantee that we are not holding something back or not, you may never know. And there is no polygraph in the world and no disclosure in the world that guarantees you that you're getting what you're looking for, which is the absolute truth. So I think that that's not the best question to ask. What I would say, it's my hope that they're saying it all. I believe that we're going to move forward. If I find more stuff, it's not going to be a good thing for us. And I might think it already in advance. What if there is more? How am I going to deal with that? And what actions am I going to take, set boundaries and all that stuff? But I don't know that you'll ever fully believe that. I don't even think I've met any partner who fully believes that's it. There's always something in their head. And that's how it goes. When you've been betrayed, when you've been cheated on, when you lost trust, it isn't like you're going to have this piece of paper read and you're going to say, "Oh, okay, now I have trust back." It's more about behavior. And yeah. So, and by the way, in the lingerie question and in this one, what I believe is action. What I believe is, oh, they're going to 3 meetings a week and they are also going to the support groups and they took one of the courses at Seeking Integrity. Oh, and they have a sponsor. That is what makes me feel, I don't know whether they're disclosing everything, but I see them really working in the process to be a better person. And that's what matters, actually: the honesty, the integrity, the not lying, knowing what's going on in your life, avoiding the gaslighting. 80% of what's really hard in your partners is the lying, the lack of intimacy, all of that. The sex is just like the tip of the iceberg, but you have a whole bunch of other stuff that isn't happening in your relationships too that you're not happy about. So anyway, there are no guarantees anywhere. Sorry.
My next question, or the next question, my mother enmeshed boyfriend is very
Wait,
obsessed
wait,
with
wait,
his,
Tammy, I'm
what?
so sorry. I have to say one more thing.
Oh,
You may have the perfect disclosure and then your addict can act out the next day. So what did the disclosure really mean if this person isn't sober and they're still doing it? That means you have another disclosure. What? And then you have another. It's just, yeah, anyway, I had to say that, Tammy. We can act out the next day and you think, well, I've gotten it all. And there's more, but it wasn't, you didn't
or
know
they can
about it.
forget something, like it is, there are cases where something, but then if you're working with qualified professionals, there's a plan for it. If something comes up, like somebody has a memory about something that should be on a disclosure, there's a process for doing that. If you're working with qualified professionals, there's a plan. But it's not about the polygraph, in my opinion. Okay, so next question. My mother enmeshed boyfriend is very obsessed with his niece. He is always showering her with affection, hugging her and carrying her. She is 2. He pays more attention and love than he gives to me. Nothing inappropriate, but it still seems strange to me. Any idea why? Does it have to do with how his mom enmeshed with him? Thank you. Oh, so you're muted, by the way. But here's where I went. I was like, she is safe. She's 2. They're like, she's gonna adore him and give him it's like, no offense, and I'm not saying a child is like a pet, but it's like there's little risk with a 2-year-old. With you there is connection and there's like fear and all of these things. You can hurt him. A 2-year-old can have a tantrum, but they get over it and will still, get toted around and give them affection. So to me it's like there's little risk. So this does not, I don't know if it's inappropriate. This feels like he has found somebody to shower affection on, that is, it's like the unconditional love, and there's risk with you. So, so I can see why it would feel strange to you, because like you're going like, why aren't you doing that with me? You know, I said the same thing with our previous dog. I said to my husband, you spend more time, paying attention to him. Guess what? We have a new dog and the dog is more mine. Guess what? I spend more time petting my dog than I do petting my husband. So, like there's just a
Did you
safety
say
with
petting
that.
your
So
husband? Like,
I know, but I do. I pat him. I should say pat
uh
him. I pet the dog, but
okay.
it's,
Um,
we've been married a long time. What can I say?
yes,
But
you have.
anyway, yeah, to me, it was just more like, it's the child is so, like, it's just, there's not the, a level of vulnerability that is with you.
Well, one of the things Tammy said, I just want to touch on, which is dogs are always happy to see you. You never do anything wrong. They're never disappointed in you. They're never mad about what happened this morning. It doesn't matter. They love you no matter what. And that isn't a relationship. I mean, it is a relationship, but it's a relationship where you're always adored, and that animal doesn't have the memory or the feelings to tell you when they're upset or when they're angry. Or so it's not really a shared relationship. It's a relationship where I get everything and they get fed. But it's not a shared emotional relationship in that way where they are saying, I didn't like that. In other words, you're always getting positive feedback from your dog. But I wanted to say something about Tammy. You brought it up for me. So Tammy knows I went to see a dear friend, who's in her, I guess, 70s or something. Really it's like a mom to me. And I was there for a little bit during the weekend, and she just got a 2-month-old little dog. And oh my God, this little dog is just like, oh my God, just I can't have enough words for how cute it was. And I went to see my friend, and I love her. We went to dinner and all that. But when I was at her house, all I did was play with the dog. That's all I did, because it was so cute and it was so adorable. And I didn't feel like I was acting out with a dog or repeating. I just thought, this is a little piece of joy that I don't have in my life, which is this beautiful little thing. And I don't know if you have children or if he gets to experience this in other places, or maybe your children are grown, but I got to tell you, picking up a 2-year-old, as long as they don't poop in your arms or scream, what could be better? So I really don't think, especially if you said there's nothing inappropriate, let him have it. Lord knows, I'd rather he was playing with his niece than, looking for pleasure elsewhere, meaning he's getting loved, he's getting distracted. Now, the question is, in our relationships, kind of like the dog, when that child becomes 17 or 15 and they start to become their own person, and all of a sudden they don't adore and we're not the most wonderful, can we love them then too? And that's the real question about our own personal growth. But now I might say to him, gee, I feel like you go away a little bit when, can we stay connected? Talk to him, tell him. I wouldn't tell him it's strange and it reminds him of his enmeshed mother. But I would say, pardon me, I miss you, how can we, whatever that is. But to me, this is something to celebrate. I mean,
Yeah. And can you play with the 2-year-old too? Like, is there stuff that you guys can do together with the 2-year-old? And, I mean, I don't know what your future is. I don't know if you're planning a future together, but, yeah, and enmeshment is so emotional, like, and all consuming. But, kiddos deserve to get just love. So,
yeah, and maternal enmeshment doesn't play out with a 2-year-old. It plays out with you. My mother wasn't a child well, she kind of was, but she wasn't the child when I was the adult physically. And so I don't know. I think he's just loving that kid. And I would focus on that.
So the next question, my partner is in recovery, and during our weekly check-in, at times he has asked me to check in as well. Great. I have not been unfaithful, but he has always been distrustful. I am highly triggered when he turns around and asks if I have any contacts with men. Oh, that's a different kind of check-in. I get pretty worked up and has caused some arguments. How can I respond when he does this or expresses distrust? It infuriates me. Okay, that does not sound like I don't know what the check-in is, but that is not like a Thanos check-in. So I'm going to put the thing for Thanos in the Because like a check-in, like a Thanos is like, you're talking about like, here's what I'm stressed out about this today. Like I'm going to have a busy day at work, or like, oh, I got, 18 meetings or whatever, it's not this to me. So what are your thoughts, Dr. Rob?
Well, what Tammy's talking about is a situation where you both agree to take 45 minutes or an hour every third night or every night or whatever it is. And you share what's going on with you and they share what's going on with them. And you kind of have an exchange about if you hurt each other. This is when you might sit down and talk about the addiction piece and have your feeling about it and all of that. But this particular question, when this comes up, I would say, I'm not talking about this and I don't want to hear
Yeah.
about this anymore. And I would set a boundary. This is a boundary, which is this makes me feel really uncomfortable. I don't like your jealousy. I think I don't know what it is for you. Might say that it senses he's projecting onto you what he's, anyway, I can have lots of psychological babble about it, but the bottom line is this would not be acceptable to me. And you said I get pretty worked up and it's caused arguments. I'd be worked up too. So I really think that this is a boundary issue, and I think it is perfectly fine for you to say, this has not happened. This hasn't happened, and I'm sorry it makes you crazy. But when you hear silence, when you bring it up, that's because I'm not going to talk about this anymore. And then you have to stay there, because he'll find all kinds of ways. Well, what about this? What about this? Told you I don't want to talk about that. Does that mean you're doing it? Does that mean you're having it? You don't want to talk about it? Go see your therapist. Not my problem. So I would put up a boundary because it makes you uncomfortable and there's nothing you can do about it. And then it makes you act in ways that feel bad about you. So set the boundary so you don't end up in that situation. And if he gets really crazy with it, go take a walk.
Yes. So I would invite you, like, it doesn't sound like you're using a structured check-in. Thanos is just one of them. I can't find fine. Debbie McRae has talked about fine, and I can't find it right now. So, but if you want that information, email me, Tammy, TAMI at Seeking Integrity, and I'll dig that out for you too. But I recommend Thanos a lot. It's feelings, affirmations, and appreciation, needs, ownership, struggles, and sobriety. And you guys can share, for you, it'd be struggles like, okay, I didn't get to do my walk today, and, I didn't get to take care of myself. So my lack of self-care is a struggle today. I'm making this up, but what and it's you're volunteering the information. It isn't an inquisition. How's that? Okay, next question. And I will capture
I'm sorry.
more. Go ahead.
I just put how to reach you, Tammy, because I don't
thank you.
really, when we talk about resources, Tammy makes referrals to therapists. She's been in this field a long time, helping with training them. She knows treatment centers. She knows the books. She knows the groups. Tammy is an all-purpose resource support. And if you
I'm going to get a T-shirt that says that.
all AS.
All-purpose research.
There are very few people I know who are as willing to give of themselves and also has so many good answers. So right, Tammy, you want to know about treatment, you want to know about treatment centers, you want to know about therapy. When we don't get kickbacks from therapists, we just refer to the people that we trust. And there are a lot of therapists out there, but you've heard me say this before, about 80% of them are not the best at their job.
Yes, so they could benefit from some personal work. So, okay. So next question, betrayed partner here. Initial D-Day was 4 years ago. Initial D-Day, that means there was more. I've been working on my recovery for a little over a year, work groups, drop-in videos, articles, etc. My SAPA is maybe 5 days sober, but in denial at the depth of my pain and problem, claiming he has been attempting recovery this whole time. Over the last year, I found 3 cell phones and a tablet amongst numerous other ways he acted out. His mom passed in July, and his 16-year-old daughter is troubled, to say the least, and abusive to both of us. She has had a difficult year, and I do want to acknowledge that. He has a CSAT and is trying, but I think his shame is so strong, he dissociates and forgets things like our daily check-ins or falls asleep during webinars. He is often not where he says he's going to be, but I also check in on him a lot. He has never been honest with me about acting out, oftentimes not even when I catch him red-handed. We are constantly arguing about little things, but I think it really comes down to rigorous, honesty and respect. I'm going to hang on, there's more. rigorous honesty and respect. This AM, he said he was in the bathroom, but he had gone a really long time. And when I went in the house, I could hear groaning in the bedroom. I
Okay.
flipped out.
I
Yeah.
don't need to hear any more about
Okay.
this to
Okay.
respond, do you think?
No, I feel,
So, this is why we run a treatment center.
yes.
This is someone who, for whatever reasons, hold on one sec. Sorry, there's my dog came in. I'm sorry, my dog is having issues. And he did pee, but not poop earlier. I just want to say that, Tammy. So, why don't you start?
Thanks for
Because now I go
sharing.
back to the question. Well, it's better than it worked. Go ahead. Why don't
So you
you
were talking
start?
about, this is a person that
Oh,
is
right,
not going to get it with just working with it. But
right.
like I did the air quotes around trying. I get tired of hearing trying. I'm trying. That's such a, that's, it is action.
I'll
And if
show them
he,
trying
yeah,
in a minute. Yeah,
yeah. So it's one of those things where, you know, yeah,
go
he's
ahead.
not doing anything to make you feel safe. I think the part where it was like, uh, that you're so upset, and I'm going like, to me, it's like, what do you need for healthy? Oh, you were checking in on him all the time too. You know, it's bad. You know, he's still acting out. You like, he's maybe got 5 days abstinent. I doubt it. Actually, you caught him. So it's like one of those things where he's got zero. He's in active addiction. If he goes a day or two without doing something, that's just the cycle of his addiction. And I doubt he goes a day or two, but it doesn't really matter. It's not how often. To me, this is someone who actually really super needs seeking integrity treatment program, where we're going to address not only his, his problematic behavior, but all of those lies. He's lying to himself. He's lying to you. He's hurting you. So I'm going to go to, what do you need to do to take care of you? Your healthy boundaries are for your safety, and taking the focus off of him, but like Dr. Rob started out earlier, it's like, what do you need to do to take care of you? And if you set up healthy boundaries, sometimes that when an addict starts pushing up against that, then they're willing to actually do something different. So I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, and we're unfortunately at that time, Tammy. But I want to say, in this, I hear way too much focus on him. You already know this man's lying to you. He's acting out. He's keeping secrets. He's hiding things. Why even bother looking? You'll just find more, and you can find more. But then what? What happens then? So then you say, oh, I found this and I found that. But that doesn't encourage change. That just hurts you more. So again, I think this is a boundary, which is, I mean, while you're lying to me, and you certainly are, you need to sleep somewhere else. I'm not going to take this anymore. If you don't go to treatment, I may not stay with you. What I don't hear is you setting boundaries for yourself and what will help you feel safe. What I hear is, I don't feel safe and I'm really upset. And he keeps doing this stuff and it keeps making me upset. And we're just spinning our wheels. Well, I think you're spinning your wheels because you're way too willing to accept the reality of how much this man is still, I assume it's a man, could be a woman, how much this partner is still out there hurting you. And by the way, in your bathroom, acting out, and in your home, what I'm worried about is I flipped out. I get triggered. I I'm exhausted. It feels like you're doing more work than he is. And so, this is where betrayed partners groups are good. This is where the betrayed partners, they or the course, it feels to me like there's some backing up you need to do and saying, how can I improve my life and my situation? Because you absolutely know he's acting out. There's like no question. And so how are you going to take care of yourself in these situations? And by the way, I hope you've gotten tested for STDs. I hope that you have made sure to, and to all of you spouses, it's a minimum requirement. We lie, we keep secrets, and also sometimes things don't show up with us that can really hurt you. So, and by the way, you really get it as a partner when you have to go to your doctor and you have to get an STD test when you've been married for 15 years. That is a really painful reality. But it'll certainly help you with your anger. Tammy, do you want to do one more, or do you think we
Yes.
have 43 people here, so we should do something for them.
Yes. Okay. So let's do, I'll put the next, I'm moving it to answered. Okay. So this is, hang on a second. I got to find 2 years in recovery. Then our second D-Day anniversary. It's at 6:06. then on our second D-Day anniversary, instead of making good memories, my husband dropped 4 bombs on me. We went through 2 full disclosures. He only opened up because I was threatening to leave him because I did not like his DABO dance. I think they always say it Davo, but if I say it wrong, don't forgive me. So
What is
dance,
Davo? I don't even.
I know what it is. I've got it written down somewhere, but my desk is a mess.
That's
So
okay. We have to get through the questions.
anyway, dance any longer. How can I get my husband to tell the truth and stop the staggered disclosures? The last 2 years have been hell. I understand his addiction, but I don't want to consistently live with a liar. Is there still hope?
Well, the biggest concern here is how can I get my husband to the rest of it, tell the truth and stop. You can't get anyone to do anything unless they decide to. So what you started with is, you're setting your own boundaries. 2 disclosures, dropping bombs on your anniversary. How much do you want to take before you're ready to say, I don't want to be so angry, and I don't want to be so fearful, and I don't want to be lied to. So what am I going to do to take care of me? Because I'll say it again, there is nothing on God's earth you can do to make someone not act out or change. They have to be willing and committed to. You do know one thing, as almost all of us addicts do, that if you move 1 inch away from us, all of a sudden we wake up. So it may be that you're setting your boundaries might create a circumstance where he says, wait, I don't like your being so distant, and I don't like living out of the house, and I'm willing to do what it takes to get back. But you don't do that because you want an effect in him or her. You do it because it's setting your own boundaries and keeping you safe. Tammy, I think we should go on to 3 hours for Monday nights.
I at least an hour and a half. There's like
Yeah.
so much, and there's so many good. So I got photos of all the rest, and we'll start with those. But I
Yes.
is there still is there still hope? So here's the deal. You are resilient. Like, I don't blame you for but you've got no control over him. So your healthy boundaries for you, and what do you need to do for you? And we get a lot of guys that come to treatment because their spouses have had it, and
Almost
so
all.
they're, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, some,
almost.
yeah.
Except for the drug
So,
addicts. They come in with different issues.
yeah.
The drug and sex. Anyway.
Yes. And that's a generalization. We do get a few people that actually go, I really do need to get my stuff together. So, but yeah, he drops a bomb on you, and then, then things get a little bit better, or there's more time passes, and then he drops a bomb on you. And yeah, that's the pattern. So, but you can get off the roller coaster, and it doesn't mean you have to leave the relationship, but you can say, stop, I'm distancing myself. I'm finding support. There are lots of people that stay in a relationship for financial reasons, for whatever, and they can cohabitate with someone, and they find support in other ways. So whatever works for you, but I hear this not working for you. So there's hope for you regardless of what he does, but it's you getting support to figure out what it is that you need and how you can move forward. Here's one more idea. Dr. Rob does these 2-hour expert consultations. This is another opportunity, to get, when couples are stuck, when they're new into this discovery, or when couples are stuck, are really good opportunities to work with Dr. Rob. He's very good at identifying the issues and giving guidance for next steps. It's validating for partners. Lots of people also feel hope that there actually is a path forward. Sometimes it's out of fear that an addict's going, keeps going back to the same behaviors, but some of them actually decide that, yeah, I'm ready to take that step. It's scary, but man, it's so worth it. So I've said this before, but I feel bad for addicts. I feel horrible for partners, but I feel bad for addicts who choose to stay in active addiction and miss out on the meaningful relationships with people that love them, and continue to hurt themselves and everyone else too. It's a sad thing. Not everybody gets recovery, and it's tragic, but for those that do, man, it's a good way to live. So there is hope for you. Go ahead.
And I feel bad for you because you're losing your mind. You are putting yourself in a situation where you're reading into things, where someone goes to McDonald's, they go in the bathroom. This is not how you want to live. And there is every indication. What I would be doing in your situation is say, I know my partner's acting out. I know they're acting all the time, and I know they're lying to me, and that is a given. What are you going to do? How are you? There's no reason to get angry because you know what's already going on. You know it. No reason to go searching because you know it. The question is, how do you want to live your life and what makes you feel safe knowing? Because I think we pretty much know that this is still happening. So what do you want to do? But what is the point of looking for it? You already know. How are you going to take care of yourself in that set of circumstances? And by the way, we're both exhausted. I don't care how exhausted he is. He's not too exhausted to act out. So he obviously too exhausted just to have a meaningful conversation with you. That doesn't sound right to me either. So Tammy, it's always, wonderful to do this.
Yeah.
Tiring, but
Yeah, no, but please know, like, we are such fans of recovery and for the integrity that it brings to people, and like there is healing, and it's sad when people get stuck, but they don't have to be. There are so many resources, and I'm happy to help point people in various directions. So please reach out. You've got my email in the chat. But if you're watching this on YouTube, Tammy, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com, and I'll do my best to help you out. Okay. Bye, Dr. Rob. I captured the ones for next week. We'll start out with those. Thanks
you have a good
everybody.
evening, folks.
Bye.